Welcome to the Magnify Your Major podcast. We are four students trying to navigate our way through college and into the career world.
Finding the right career path can feel like a daunting task. That's why we want to connect you to the tools and resources you'll need along your journey.
None of us have it all figured out, and that's okay. We're able to learn from each other's experiences.
So sit back, relax, and listen into today's episode
as we discuss some great professional organizations and associations. Hi, everyone. My name is Alexia Baker. Thanks for listening in today. We are going to be discussing professional organizations. Now, in case you don't know, a professional organization or professional association is basically an organization that is made up of members who are a part of a similar industry or field. So professional organizations, if you are a doctor, you may be in one that is made up of medical professionals. So essentially for this assignment, we had to do research and find 2 to 3 professional organizations that we were interested in joining in the future. So why don't we just go ahead and dive into that discussion? Is there anybody who wants to start us off about how that research process looked and what kinds of professional organizations you found that you would be interested in getting involved in going forward?
Yeah, I don't mind starting us off. So for me, it was actually, the research process was actually a little bit easier because I'm an anthropology major. And one of the associations or organizations that I talked about is actually one that a lot of my professors actually have us using a lot because it has a variety of resources and tools that students can use. So I was already pretty familiar with it. So I'll go ahead and talk about that one a little bit. It's the American Anthropological Association, and it's considered to be the world's largest professional organization of anthropologists. And pretty much it's dedicated to advancing, human understanding and applying that understanding to, like world, like pressing, issues and problems, as well as serving as a sort of like database that provides, like resources like publications. It has, tools for like up-to-date news, has, ways for students to, get involved and kind of just like learn more about anthropology and the type of fields of study, and then like even careers that you can have within that. Yeah, so it's often called like the AA, or we just call it the anthropological association.
It's a mouthful for sure.
Yeah, it is, that alliteration. But yeah, so it is an organization that you can have a membership in. And what's really cool about this organization is that it has like a whole like scope of types of memberships. So they have like 2 categories, which is the individual and department. And so for individual, I won't go into too much detail with each one because there's a lot of them, but you can apply to be, a professional. For professional membership, it can do student membership, undergraduate, retired, international, and associate. And they even have memberships for students who are like K through 12, as well as like K through 12 educators. So they definitely have a lot of opportunities for people to be able to get involved with the organization, which I think is very beneficial to anybody, who, maybe wants to learn more about anthropology or who wants to be able to connect with, other anthropologists or the resources available. And there's also the department service program membership, which is pretty much just a partnership for different departments of anthropology, sociology, even criminal justice and social sciences, with the American Anthropological Association. So they definitely have a lot of ways to be able to connect with other programs and organizations as well, which I think is a useful tool. And as I had mentioned, they do have publications. They also have these annual meetings. They have a variety of events and workshops to attend. They have seminars. But what's also really cool is that they have news and publications that help anyone really stay up to date with current events, findings from research, articles. One of the primary publications they have is the Anthropology News, which is a member magazine published bi-monthly in print for members, and as well as on the website. And that pretty much has a variety of things that can be happening around the world, regarding anthropology. It could be like a new research find, or it could be maybe like a discussion on social issues. They also have the Open Anthropology Public Journal. That one's digital only, and it's similar to the Anthropology News publication. But again, I think that the primary difference is that one is only digital, and I think that one is more open to the general public. And finally, they have the Open Anthropology Research Repository, and pretty much, which I think, honestly, this one is probably the most useful or beneficial, because it's like a public server or community server that it connects people to anthropology work, preprints, teaching materials, papers, posters, things that anybody can use, for a variety of reasons, whether you're a college student doing, a research paper and you can access those resources, or if you're, maybe going to be doing like a lecture or a seminar, it helps you kind of find tools you can use for your presentation. So overall, I think that the the American Anthropological Association is probably, again, it's the one that I'm most familiar with, so I do know a lot about it, and I have used it a lot as a student. But I think that's probably the most beneficial one for anthropologists, because it provides you with resources. It gives you, for students, it gives you a way to find internships, mentors, connects you to job opportunities. It even tells you, like different careers you can have as an anthropologist. Just not a lot of people know that, like with anthropology, you can work, in a very diverse field. Like there's no like one right path to do anthropology. So I definitely think that this is probably the most extensive organization that anthropology has.
So I'm not sure if you said this while you were talking, but is membership, is it a paid membership for students if they're interested in plugging into this association? How can they go about doing that?
I think it depends on the type of membership that you subscribe to. I think that some of them are paid. But I think that I think especially maybe for like the K through 12, I think that's free. Because I feel like it would be like a little weird for kids in K through 12 to have to pay for a membership to it. So it might be one of the things where like if you meet like the requirements, like there's certain like they could like waive the fee,
Okay,
for it.
I see.
Yeah, but I do know that I think as like the student, I think that if you're not in K through 12 and you might be like a university student or like high school, I believe it's maybe like $50 a year. And then like I think, yeah, I think that like starting at professional, it's most expensive, but going down, it gets cheaper. But it is a yearly fee, like a yearly due. So you don't pay monthly, you pay for membership each year.
Okay, that sounds really good. And then the other question that I was going to ask is if this association has any sort of maybe national conferences or other ways for you to connect with people within that field. Maybe if you could just talk about that one more time, about what the networking opportunities that are available through involvement in this.
Yeah, so I've never been able to attend one of their meetings, but they do have annual meetings, which are pretty much like very large conferences where like people from all over the world come together to, give presentations, discuss, current world events, pretty much share like anything anthropology related. But they also have, I believe they have like webinars or like virtual seminars. And I don't think that's just exclusively because of the whole COVID-19 situation. So I think that might have existed before that, but it's definitely a good tool now. So that way they can still have a way to provide those resources and those networking events virtually for those who are interested. And I believe that they also have, yeah, they have like the Summer Institute. It's like the Department Leader Summer Institute. And I think that that's another type of event that they have that helps you connect. So yeah, they have a variety of different events you can go to. There's also Anthropology Day as well. So it's pretty much like a day for anthropologists to celebrate like the field of anthropology and being able to share it with other people. Yeah, yeah. So it kind of like, I don't want to say a holiday, but it's more like a day of recognition for the field of anthropology. But yeah, I can go ahead and talk about the other organization I have. So this one, I was actually not very familiar with. So the process for this one to do research on it was pretty much just going through and looking to see what other types of professional organizations that are relevant to anthropology. Where else are they? What else is offered? And this one is actually the European Association of Social Anthropologists. So it's a little more specific compared to the American Anthropological Association, because that one is more broad for like anthropology as a whole. But the European Association is more focused on social anthropology. Again, I feel like as the name kind of, hints at, it's based in Europe and it's meant for Europeans. So those who study in Europe or who got their anthropology degrees in Europe are the ones who are able to access the resources from these organizations. So it's a little bit more limited, but I still think that it's a good resource and a good tool for those who might need it. It's a professional association that's open to all social anthropologists, those who are qualified or working in Europe. And the mission is to be able to advance anthropology in Europe, being able to like organize conferences by working on its academic journal, having newsletters and its publication series. And it's very big on encouraging and supporting like networking for those who are in Europe. Yeah, so as I mentioned, it has conferences, resources for networking. It also has funding opportunities. Perhaps like if you're doing research and you need a way to be able to fund it, they offer resources and tools to be able to help you with that. They have tools for organizing events. They have the journals and they even have a search engine as well. And some of the publications that they have, the publications they have are a little bit more limited compared to the other organization. But the first one is actually their newsletter. And it's produced 3 times a year, spring, summer, and autumn or winter, somewhere around there. And pretty much it's what a typical newsletter would be like, but more specific to social anthropology and things happening within the field of social anthropology. So like, events or maybe upcoming workshops, or it could be, like new news and research. So general things in that regard.
I have to quickly ask, what is social anthropology? Because you're using that term, but I'm not sure. What is it?
Yeah, so social anthropology, that's a good point. Sometimes like when you're familiar with something, you forget that not everyone else is. Because social anthropology is a discipline or a field of study within the discipline of anthropology. Because anthropology is like an umbrella term, So it's like the way that we kind of classify various fields of study. Mm-hmm. And social anthropology is like the cultural or social study of humans. So it could be you working to understand, different cultures around the world, how people interact with each other. It could be exploring even the historical implications of, their society or their culture. It could be you wanting to understand like how two cultures, interacted like in the past, like maybe their history together. just a variety of things like in that regard.
So that definitely helps me to understand how
Mhm.
this particular association is a little bit more specific to maybe what your interests are than just broad anthropology in general.
Yeah. Because which I was surprised about because I thought that when I first found it, I thought that it would be sort of like the American Association of Anthropology, but just like based in Europe, you know? But then as I did more research, I realized it's more just like geared towards social anthropologists, which I mean, I think that's fine. You know, I think that it's good for there to be kind of like an easier way to find resources that are more specific towards what you're actually working in, you know? It definitely makes it a little bit easier, I think. Um, but yeah, so the publications, they also have, they call it a book series, but it's more so just like a list or collection of books that have been published by like a variety of different European authors on like a whole variety of topics. Like that's about it's called the Sea Command's Community and Perception of the Environment in a Portuguese Fishing Village, compared to one where that talks about how academia can change the world. So it's definitely a whole diverse array of books that people can access. So the primary goal of that publication is pretty much just to give people like an idea of what books are available that are focused on social anthropology, and also giving the authors a chance to be able to put their work out. They do have membership opportunities. So they have the ordinary, or what they call the full membership, and it's for those who have like a master's degree, or I guess the equivalent of that, in social anthropology, and it has to be from a European university, or I believe if you have taught or researched like within social anthropology before. And then they have the student membership, which is for those who are actually currently studying for their master's or doctorate within social anthropology. I think that it's still good to be able to offer resources to anyone who can use it, regardless of it might be like their field of study, because I think that like anyone can benefit from the resources that both of these organizations provide.
Okay, and with that being said, how would you say that participation in these professional organizations would set you up for success in the field that you are wanting to enter going forward?
Yeah, I think that definitely for the American Anthropological Association, I mean, for me personally, because I've used it as a resource before, I think it's beneficial to me because it gives me access to information on anthropology, and I used it before in the past whenever I was, actually researching what anthropology was, and when I was deciding if I wanted to major in that. And it gives a lot of information that helps you understand like a breakdown of like the different like subfields and all that. But I think most importantly, the two aspects that help out a lot are the information on jobs, like job opportunities. So like if you're curious about like, what type of job can I get with this degree, they break it down for you. They show you, the different institutions you can work in, or like the type of career paths that you can take, that might not seem very obvious, as well as the internship directory. So it kind of like gives you an idea of who you can intern with, what opportunities there are for you to be able to extend, or I'm sorry, it spans like your connections with like, individuals or organizations or all of that.
Well, that seems like a great place to segue into the next person who can discuss how their process of finding some professional organizations went, and what you learned from the experience.
I could go next. So the first association that I was looking at is named the San Antonio Police Officers Association, and this organization focuses on providing year-round services and assistance to underprivileged, low-income children and families. So what this organization does is informal in its membership because so they have like technically 3 ways to like become a member or to be a part of this association. So you can donate, you can volunteer, or you can sponsor, right? And so the donations, they accept a bunch of stuff. You can donate food, you can donate clothes, you could donate toys and school supplies. And it's kind of crazy because when I was looking at this like organization, it's just thinking about it like, I mean, thankfully, thanks to God and like gratefully, going to school, I never thought about like how tough it is for some kids to like find school supplies, to find a nice backpack that can carry your books, can carry your pencils. Like growing up, um I'm grateful for it. My parents were able to give me those school supplies. But in reality, a lot of kids don't have that, in San Antonio and of course in other states and cities. And so it's really nice what this organization does, and they talk about how a lot of children they don't have food at home, so they rely on eating at school. But on the weekends, if they don't have food at home and like there's no school, they starve a bit, So this organization, the San Antonio Police Officers Association, on the weekends they offer food, because food, but the food runs out. These officers take the time to distribute food at different locations. And 2 projects that this organization talks about is Blue Santa and Project CJ. So Blue Santa, so over the whole year, this organization is collecting toys, right? And Blue Santa, what it does around Christmas time, the officers and volunteers go deliver the toys to families and children in need, which is really cool, And it's nice because I'm like, we may see it as something little like, oh, it's a toy, but just growing up, thinking about how much that affects your development, being able to just like, being able to play and just use your imagination to not have to worry about the struggles, that really helps these children grow, and avoid, the struggles, at least minimize having to deal with that a bit. And then Project CJ, that's the one that I was telling you about that collects food, they collect food, cans, all that stuff that people donate, and on the weekends they'll give out that food. And then for so like I said, it's a very like informal membership, but it's just there's so many ways that you can offer yourself, and you can contribute and help be a part of this. So a what's it called? So like their official magazine, because this is part of a San Antonio Police Department. Their official magazine is the Centurion, and so this like magazine, it's online. Anybody can get to it. It has the locations where food is given out. And some of them they call it breakfast clubs. You can go and get some food there. They have the dates when that dates and locations of where food will be given on weekends and when the toys will be given out around Christmas time.
That's awesome to know. That the police department is giving back to the community in that way. So I was also going to ask you, in terms of the membership, is it, of course, I'm sure it's targeting police officers, but is it open to these events and projects that they do, or are they open to other members of the community as well?
So yes, it says anyone can donate. So for students, anyone can donate, volunteer and sponsor. And what's really cool is that this organization, it's presented a lot in the overall San Antonio website. That website tells you everything about San Antonio, like the Alamo, cool locations.
Right.
So anyone who visits or comes across that site can find this organization and be like, you know what, I want to help out too. So it's really cool because as students, they don't charge you a fee, but no fee, and you can donate as much as you want or volunteer whenever you can.
Do you think that that's a more like beneficial method for getting involved with like organizations, like having it to where you don't have to pay a fee, but you do things like volunteering or donating and all that? Like, do you think that's more meaningful, or do you think that it's okay to have like a paid membership?
I guess I guess it could it could go both ways, I guess. Because a paid membership, I feel like a paid membership, not that it like forces you, but it keeps you like, I feel like it keeps you at a higher bar to like do those things,
Mm-hmm.
because like if I want to see the information on this organization, I can run past I can just go through the website and see everything and then be like, you know what, I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
One that does have a membership fee, if you're like really interested and want to know about it, you're going to pay that fee. And once you pay that fee, you're like, I want to be a part of this. I'm gonna actually contribute to this. So I feel like a membership fee keeps you more, it does push you to do more with the organization. So that's the good thing about a fee.
That is a good point, Dan. I think with the membership fee, you have some skin in the game, so to speak. So
Mhm.
you're more eager to participate and to do those things, not necessarily out of obligation, but because you paid, it shows that it's something that you have some level of serious passion or interest in. So
Moving on to my next organization that I was looking at. This one, okay. So this is the SAPD Mental Health Unit and the Crisis Intervention Team. This unit, it's been set up for multiple years, It's been out there for a couple of years, but there is these two SAPD officers that named Ernie and Joe, right? These two officers, they were part of the unit for mental health, the mental health unit. However, officers and society didn't really take the mental health unit that serious. A lot of the time they would call officers and they wouldn't really like strive to understand the victim or whoever they're like who was involved in the case. They would just straight up be like, oh, okay, let's go. Okay, let's do this. The same solutions that were always applied. So what Ernie and Joe did is that they made a documentary and it was called Ernie and Joe Crisis Cops. It's a documentary and it's on HBO, and it demonstrates the encounters that they have with like victims, when they go to a scene, when they get a call like, hey, we need y'all to come over here. It shows how people who are having like mental breakdowns or they're struggling with mental health, it shows how ineffective some solutions are for them, like sending a mental health to jail isn't really going to benefit them that much. It shows that Ernie and Joe, like they sometimes that they're required to send them to jail, but like people know it's not going to do anything. It's not going to do any good for them. And there's other ways, sending them to rehabilitation programs that showed that it's really going to make a change in their life, So after this documentary, it helped so many, these two guys or these two officers, they ended up traveling around different like states, giving their ideas and expressing like ways to divert these people from going to prison, saving the resources for people who are more dangerous, more violent, and getting these people the appropriate help. So with this, the SAPD program or the SAPD unit, they made an organization called FACT, FACT, which stands for Family Assistance Crisis Team. And this organization is completely like it's free. It's free to join, and it takes volunteers. And these volunteers are trained to offer crisis intervention services to victims and their families. So it trains them, you pretty much you show up to like class, you enroll in a course, and they teach you how to respond to community members that are struggling with mental health. Instead of calling the cops, hey, there's someone like being really bad here in my neighborhood, you find a better way to respond to that and get a better solution. So yeah, that's the other one that I was looking at. And like I said, yeah, it's a volunteer and you join.
So what was it about this organization in particular that drew you towards it? Like, what is the source of maybe your interest in looking at that mental health issue when it comes down to policing?
No, yeah, thank you. That's a really good question. So I'm pretty sure I've told y'all like a bunch of times. I'm still deciding between state trooper and detective. Like I don't know which one I want to do, but either I want to do one of those two for sure. State trooper, detective. And mental health, I just feel like, of course, in any other like occupation, but it's just as an officer, you deal with so many different people in the community. And it's research even recognizes that cynicism and like seeing people as bad people, it happens a lot within officers. You go to dangerous situations all the time. And I mean, nobody calls an officer for like a party or for a good time. It's something negative going on. So it kind of sucks, but officers tend to get in that mindset where, oh, I'm about to encounter a bad person, I'm just gonna arrest them and send them to get over with it. So I think it's really important to have that in the back of my head that, mental health is a serious thing and it's common. It's not the person's fault. It's not the person's fault that they're struggling with this. It's just, it is how it is, People struggle with mental health, and as an officer, I would need to recognize it and be able to pinpoint, factors like, okay, this person is acting this way. Maybe not because like they hate me or they just dislike me, but maybe it's just because they've been having a bad day and they broke down. I need to find a way that I can actually help them. Just because they're having a bad day, I shouldn't punish them and send them to jail and make their day even worse. I should be able to understand them and search for a better way to help them out. So that's why I just really value looking into and keeping mental health.
I certainly know that the ability to see things from that perspective will serve you well in the realm of public safety, whether you decide to become a detective or a state trooper, because especially in these times when there have been so many incidences of police violence and things that have come up in the last several months, it is so important for those who are entering that field to be able to have a level of self-awareness, but also of awareness of others, having a higher level of emotional intelligence, and being able to recognize mental health issues and how to deal with people who are struggling with mental health issues. So that would be a great thing to be involved with in that field.
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's very true.
I guess just a question, because like both your associations were pretty local. What do you think are the benefits of being a part of a local association opposed to a national or international association?
Like the way I was looking at it, I feel like local, I feel like you can feel a sense of connection. It's typically like the people around you. It's so much easier to meet up with them and so much easier to talk to them and relate to them. My organizations that I looked at, it's pretty much San Antonio. So that culture and that you share those common values compared to, let's say I'm in an organization and I'm trying to connect with someone in Florida. It's going to be a little harder to connect. We have that, we're in the same organization, but just finding those commonalities, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, those were pretty much my organizations and associations that I looked at.
Okay, I can go next. The first organization I did was the American Society of Criminology, and for short, the ASC. And pretty much the kind of work they do, they are an international organization, and the members pretty much pursue scholarly, scientific, and professional knowledge concerning the measurement, etiology, and consequence, prevention, control, and treatment of crime and delinquency. And looking through like their website and different things, I did see that they have a ton of different divisions. Just some of the divisions are communities and place, cybercrime, people of color and crime, queer, criminology, white collar and corporate crime, and women in crime. So they tackle different topics. And to me, I was surprised to see some of the topics just because sometimes people tend to think that the police are like outdated, but at least in the research side, there are things being done to address certain topics like queer criminology. The membership is pretty much open to many people. You can be a student, a practitioner, or a researcher in any of the fields of criminal justice and criminology. So to add in, you can also be in sociology. And so their membership's pretty broad. Student members in particular are only $30, so they're pretty accessible. They have the option of having publications received in print or online because they do have 2 journals in particular. And then for members, those who are researchers and are actively working in the fields, their membership actually depends on what salary they receive. So you have different tiers, like for those making $75,000 or less, it's only $105. For those making $150,000 or more, their membership is $165. So it just depends. I guess like for their publications, they have 2 journals in particular, and they have 4 issues every year. The first journal is Criminology and Interdisciplinary Journal, and Criminology and Public Policy is the second one. And they also have a newsletter called The Criminologist. And they, in these like research journals, they do address various topics as well, kind of goes hand in hand with the different divisions they have. Just like some of the current articles I looked at in their most recent issue, their 59 issue was In the Eye of the Beholder, Meaning and Structure of Informal Status in Women's and Men's Prison. So they're kind of talking about the power dynamics in prison. And then another journal in that same publication was The Contemporary Transformation of American Youth, Analysis of Change in the Prevalence of Delinquency. So once again, they're like comparing the different prevalence of delinquency at different times from like 1991 to more recent years like 2018, 2015. And then for their newsletter, it's pretty much just an informal publication talking about their activities, news concerning criminal justice events, and just other news for members themselves. I did see, though, that because they offer like student memberships, they do offer publications in print or online. And depending on which membership you choose, like it depends also on the amount you pay. But they do have a lot of fellowships as well offered for doctoral students. So it's really an organization where you can really network pretty easily, and you have access to different opportunities as well. And then if you guys have any questions on that first organization.
Sure. What would you say in your mind is the most beneficial part of being a member of this organization? Is there something in particular about this association that made you say, yes, this is one that I would most definitely want to join?
I think the most valuable thing about it is just how much access you have to research because they have so many issues coming out and just access to all this research where as a law enforcement officer, you have access to these and can really make more educational decisions when it comes to working. I feel like sometimes the system itself tends to be a little outdated. So having access to these resources really can help you question like what ways can I change and what ways can I make this better.
Is there, I'm wondering, is there anything about this organization that you think that they're missing or something that you would want them to include?
I guess just looking at the events they have, they mostly just focus on the annual conference they have every year. But other than that, like you are really limited to where you are and what other members are around you. So maybe just having in general more access to different events and to make the organization and its members more of a community.
Do you think that having like maybe like making virtual events would be helpful? That way, like they could have like a variety of topics and then anybody would be able to like attend them?
Definitely. Instead of just having that one every year.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and talk about the second organization. This one is a lot more known. It's the National Association of Chiefs of Police. And to my surprise, at least I've learned about this organization before in my classes, and I used to always think that it was only open to chiefs of police, but it's actually open once again to a lot of people. It is the world's largest and most influential professional association for police leaders, and it has more than 31,000 active members in over 165 countries. So definitely people from all over the world. And it's known pretty much for its commitment to enhancing community safety by shaping the future of police profession and really timely research, programming, and unparalleled training opportunities, and just making police leaders for tomorrow. Membership pretty much is open to all law enforcement and those affiliated with law enforcement, including police leaders, officers ranging from recruit to command level, and then law enforcement executives, criminal justice academics, and students. But once again, like depending on who you are, depends on what kind of membership you receive. For students, it is also $30. But then for those that are active memberships, pretty much just open to chiefs and superintendents. So pretty much leaders in the police force. But then associate memberships are open to other people like students and sworn officers and academic people and just associates as well. They have a lot more events going on. So they do have an annual conference and expo, but they also have other conferences like technology conference, DAID conference, officer safety and wellness symposium. So a lot of different events that people can attend. These are particularly both in person and online. So you can definitely go in person and meet people, but also you can also access it all online. So I thought that was really helpful. As for publications, they don't have a specific journal like the other organization did, but they do have, they publish guides and they have like a monthly newsletter as well. And online, they have guides and toolkits that pretty much talk about various topics as well and ways you can improve your community's awareness and reporting a suspicious activity, maybe addressing child sex trafficking, and even things such as like Facebook and violent extremism awareness and juvenile curfew enforcement. So there's a lot of guides on there that you can access as a law enforcement leader. For students, they have various opportunities. In particular, They once again opened their summer internship. So they're doing that once again. They stopped for a year because of COVID, but they're opening a remote internship for students.
Knowing what you do about like the resources that these programs have for like finding internships or like looking for mentors, do you think that like maybe in the future you'll use like what they have to help you like get internships?
I feel like I definitely will use it. Like coming in and doing this assignment, I didn't think they had student memberships, to be honest, or especially because like some of these are nationally known or internationally known. And I thought the membership itself was really limited, but I was really happy to see that it actually is open to students. And I'll definitely think about joining some in particular to have access to those internships.
Yeah, because I definitely think that getting like your foot in the door like as soon as you can is a good process, like considering like what they can help you with like in regards to maybe like finding like the right path to your career or helping you network or connect you to resources you can use. I definitely think that could be very helpful for you, which I think like highlights like the benefits of like this assignment in particular, like taking the time to actually like research what programs exist within your field of study.
I'd have to agree that this assignment was useful because some of what I found today, I really would have never known, or I would have never taken the time to find out. And I will just tell all of the listeners that this was so helpful because some of these websites for the professional organizations actually have member directories where you can find contact information for members. And for one of the websites that I looked at, I literally gathered at least 5 emails for people that I can reach out to and potentially be able to talk to them and connect with them. So it's never too early or too soon to start thinking about what kinds of associations exist within your field, because it will help you to make those connections and to find mentors earlier on, which is, hey, the earlier the better. I guess I'll go ahead and dive into my 2 that I found. The first one that I found is called the Texas Young Lawyers Association. So essentially, it is a department of the State Bar of Texas, which means that this particular association is going to be filled with attorneys, and these are attorneys who are 36 years old or younger, or are in their first 5 years of practice, regardless of their age. Really, the purpose of this association is to help both the members and members of the broader public in the community to understand Texas law. So one of the reasons that I was really drawn to this is because of the resources that they create. So they don't have an official publication, but they do create each year all kinds of brochures, curriculum, videos, and other resources that lawyers, judges, and the general public can access to understand the law. Actually, in the past, I've had an assignment and we had to try to draft like a letter for a hypothetical client, helping them with a rent situation with an apartment or something. And for this assignment, we used the Texas Tenants' Rights Handbook that was created by the Texas Young Lawyers Association. And this handbook has all about the tenants' rights so that people are able to know what legal rights they actually have. This is also very beneficial because if you are a young lawyer and you don't have a lot of experience in the practice field, maybe you don't have mentors who you can reach out and say, what do you think about this particular subject matter, this legal question, what should I do? If you don't know that straight away, or you don't have those connections or network built up yet, you're able to use these resources that are available for free. In fact, they have this thing called the 10-minute mentor. it's a project that they completed, and it's basically these 10-minute videos that are directed towards lawyers, and they may be answering questions about certain legal topics and things like that. So resources that are available for free, that are extremely useful. And then also the thing that drew me to it was just the community involvement, being able to volunteer within the community, perhaps being able to take a role in helping to create these brochures and things of that nature. And also the opportunity for leadership within the organization, running for a leadership role in the future if that was something that I was interested in. They do actually have student opportunities for $15 a year. You can join as a law student, and they also have some national competitions, trial court competitions, moot court competitions that law students are able to be involved in, as well as scholarship opportunities that are available. Let's see. Yeah, so that was my first one. And then the second one that I found is called the National Association of Women Judges. So this is a professional organization for lawyers and women judges. This is verbatim from their website, but the goal of the organization, their mission is to promote the judicial role of protecting the rights of individuals under the rule of law through strong, committed, diverse judicial leadership. So they are very much focused on promoting diversity within the judicial branch and promoting access to justice for all within the legal field. So although this association does not produce its own publications, well, let me take that back, because they do have a newsletter. They don't have any sort of magazine or anything, but they do have a lot of projects and judicial education curriculum and other projects that they produce that are focused on really hot button issues and issues within our society, such as human trafficking, voter education, judicial elections, conditions for women in prison, immigration, bioethics, and they also are focused on student outreach. So in terms of the benefits, I would definitely be interested in joining because I have an interest in the judiciary, and I hope to go in it eventually and perhaps become a judge. But I would have the opportunity to participate in educational programs aimed at improving access to justice. I would also get to attend national conferences. I would receive automatic membership into an affiliated organization called the International Association of Women Judges, and be able to connect with other lawyers, female lawyers and judges around the world, not just in the US, and then just networking in general. So these are all some things that I'm very much interested in. Membership is available to law students and law clerks. However, if I were to enter at that level, I just wouldn't be able to take any sort of leadership role within the organization, and I could not vote for those who are running for office within the org. So
those both sound like they have like a lot going for them in regards to like the resources and all that. Like just hearing you list all of it off seems like they're very like dedicated to like expanding, what they can offer to like potential lawyers or anybody in like a similar field. So I can definitely see how they would be very helpful for you, like in particular, as like a prospective lawyer, because like I think it just makes that transition and that journey easier, to not, be stumbling around, like unsure of, how to connect with people or like what resources or programs are out there. So I definitely think those are two really good organizations.
Sometimes, as they say, it's not always what you know, but who you know. So finding a way to get involved within these organizations earlier on, as I stated earlier, will be hugely beneficial, because people may know of opportunities, they may be able to mentor, and it's a way to be a part of something much larger than yourself within your field.
Did you, I'm sorry if I missed it, but did you ever talk about, like, to be a member, do you have to already be a lawyer? Is it something that you can like connect with like earlier on, like maybe like undergrad or?
That's a great question. Well, for both of these organizations, they do have an opportunity for students to become involved. However, you have to be a law student. So I
Okay.
didn't see that they had anything where I could, as an undergrad, do that. But I know for the Texas Young Lawyers Association, you can pay $15 as a law student and you can be involved with their programming, and as well as the other one, you could be a law student or a law clerk to participate.
Okay, so you just like, that's like, I guess the minimum requirement is to be like a law student.
Yes.
Okay.
But I still am going to try, like I was saying earlier, for one of these websites that I found a directory of just different legal professionals. And even though I'm still an undergrad, I'm still probably going to try to reach out and see if I can make a connection, because, hey, why not? You never know.
Yeah, I think trying is better than not trying, because you never know. Like, maybe you'll get a connection that can help you like a lot.
Definitely. Okay, guys. Is there any other last takeaways, final takeaways that you want for our listeners as they think about researching professional organizations?
Real quick, my bad. I just kind of wanted to ask. Both of the organizations you talked about were national, right?
Well, one of them is a state bar organization, so it's specific to Texas, and then the other one is national.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, because like Daniela asked me earlier, national versus local, and I was just thinking, like, I mean, I came to like my head when you were talking about that, because I was just thinking, if you're in a national one, you like the goal of the organization is, I guess it's more broad, right? Because it takes into account each state's problems or each state's take about like what they're talking about. Like, let's say drug addiction, it may be different in Cali compared to Texas or compared to Oregon. So it's kind of, I guess it's kind of cool because you get different aspects of the problem or of the situation going on compared to a local one. A local one, it's more just like the center problem in that city or in that town. I was just thinking about that. And I feel like, I'm not sure what y'all think about it. Would you think being in a local organization, do you think you'll be more motivated to like resolve the problem or the attain the goal that the organization's pushing towards?
I mean, I think that it's definitely an easier first step to, I mean, it depends on the issue, of course. But it's definitely a good first step to get involved with your community first. I think, because sometimes it can be very overwhelming or difficult to try and get an issue on like a national or worldwide level. So starting like, at home first is probably going to be beneficial. So doing like a local organization to help you understand more about like what's going on in your community and like the ways that you can help. But that's not to say that doing or participating or joining a national organization is bad. I think that they both have their merits, but I do think that starting small can be helpful.
There definitely are benefits to involvement in a local association as well as a national. I do believe that when you're looking at a local one, it requires you to find out what issues are going on within your community, the community that's right around you. And as Emily was stating, it does give you a place where you can take that first step, but it just helps to make sure that you're engaged with not what's going on halfway across the country, but what's going on right down the street from you, and how you can be a leader and how you can make a difference right within your own community. But the larger organizations do have those broader goals, but if they have a goal and a mission that you are committed to and that you are passionate about, then why not go for that as well?
Mm-hmm. I agree. But yeah, I think that overall that was a very good discussion. I think it was good to see different perspectives for each of you in regards to the different organizations out there, especially because like sometimes, like it's hard to not focus entirely just on like your own field of study. So I think hearing from all of you about what your fields have to offer is helpful for me, but also for those who are listening right now in case it resonates with them. And I definitely would recommend for anyone to take that first step to just do a little bit of research. It doesn't have to be for an assignment. I think that doing it just as you're curious or just to learn more about your field and what programs are out there to offer you. I think that in the long run, it can only help you to navigate your career.
Sometimes it's as simple as a quick Google search, and you may find that there's somebody within your field who can help you, who is literally right in your city or within your community.
Yeah, you'd be surprised at what you can find. I was when I researched that, because I did not know that there is like a European Anthropology Association. So you learn a lot.
You certainly will. Well, on that note, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our discussion for today. But thank you all so much for listening in. And we hope that you can join us for our next conversation.